So let me start out by saying that I know a lot of YouTubers have stopped talking about political news, doing commentaries on certain subjects because they claim YouTube is going to turn off the ads on those videos. And they aren't lying. I mean, I've had several emails from YouTube saying some of my older political videos aren't commercially friendly anymore. I had some of the After Dark series videos flagged saying that, you know, we don't want to put ads on this because I was talking about atrocities that the U.S. government has created on their own citizens. And so I guess, you know, the news, even though it's a lot tamer than what you'll see on cable news, YouTube doesn't want to promote that, so whatever. I know a lot of YouTubers have decided to only talk about tame topics now, unless they can get you to donate to their Patreon or to throw money at them while they spam you with live streams. But I just want to let you know, I don't give a shit. And so I'm going to continue to talk about whatever I want. And if it doesn't get monetized, it doesn't get monetized. I see this as a soft form of censorship. Yes, they're still letting me talk about whatever it is that I want to, but it's a form of censorship. I call it soft censorship because it is working on a lot of people who have already decided that they're not going to talk about controversial subjects because they want that income. And so if they don't get the income, it's not worth them to put in the time to make a video. So I'm not going to be censored. So now that we've cleared that up, here's the story. Factions within the Turkey government are trying to pass stricter restrictions on selling video games within its borders because it claims games like Call of Duty and Resident Evil are intentionally spreading Islamophobia and desecrating Islamic symbols. This is the government of Turkey. Here's a quote from the head of the ministry's Education, Culture, and Research Commission. Quote, "The goal of many games is to give people a negative perception about Islam. Digital games are used as a tool to spread Islamophobia. Often the player is put in the role of a soldier and they gain points by killing Muslims who are shown to them as terrorists. The main goal is creating enmity towards Islam." End quote. So this section of their government, they have 19 games listed as being Islamophobic. Call of Duty made the cut. So did Rock Band, which I was surprised at this, but they say that there is a stage that you can play music on that has the word Allah written on it. And apparently that's a big no-no. That's Islamophobia right there. I'm a little confused because I thought Allah just simply meant God, and even Arabic Jews and Christians use that phrase, but according to them, it's Islamophobia. They also at one point even listed Pac-Man as being a promoter of Islamophobia, claiming that the main character, this is no joke, was chasing and collecting veiled Muslim women. Like, what the fuck? So when you start going down that crazy road, you might as well just hit all the stops and just, you know, just throw it all out there on the line. So Turkey wants to develop their own games that offer safe spaces pretty much for their citizens. So where to begin? You know, let's just be honest and let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think the bigger threat and what may be causing the snowball of Islamophobia, maybe it has to do with the flood of stories in the news about a segment of the group that's driving trucks of peace into crowds, blowing people up, killing homosexuals, and chopping off people's heads who don't worship their God. I mean, I would say that that's maybe just a little bit bigger threat than Rock Band or Pac-Man. So if you follow me on Twitter, a few weeks ago, terrorist attack struck really close to home. Not to me personally, not to my physical home, but to my family. As many of you know, my wife is from the Philippines. There was a city that has been under siege for weeks from a group loyal to ISIS. And the morning that that takeover started, my wife's sister was in that city. And they stormed and took over the hospital that she was in. And her and her fellow co-workers were told by the Muslims working in the hospital at the time, they said, look, you got to go into hiding. And so they went and barricaded themselves in a room for several hours. Anybody who wasn't a Muslim, they needed to go hide. And thankfully, she was able to escape because they had somebody who had a car. But for several hours, she was trapped in the same building as this group loyal to ISIS was taking over that building. Even though she was lucky, there were a lot of people who weren't. They came in, they destroyed a Catholic church, killed known Christians, they took people hostage, they beheaded a police chief. There was a van that was trying to escape. They stopped the van, pulled everybody out, asked them if they could cite a scripture from the Quran, and the ones who couldn't cite it, they shot them. And the situation is still ongoing. Now, this didn't get a whole lot of attention simply because this happened around the same exact time that the attack happened in London, which kind of sucked all the oxygen out of the media here in the West. I mean, I always say facts don't care about your feelings. The fact is, there's only one group that you hear about doing this sort of stuff. And no, I am not claiming that it's all Muslims, because obviously it's not. There's like, what, over 1.5 billion Muslims on the planet. So if they all wanted to kill you, there'd be a lot more people dead. Even these extremists are killing their own kind. They're killing Muslims. So, I mean, my wife, she worked as a nurse in Saudi. Her daughter was a Muslim. They still communicate to this day and check on each other. They've sent gifts back and forth, but you can't also blindly act as though nothing is wrong. You don't hear about Buddhists doing this. You don't hear about the Amish driving peace wagons into crowds. So there's a problem. As I've told you before in the past, I sort of lean libertarian. I just hate to put a label on myself for anything. I have very liberal views when it comes to some topics. I have very conservative views when it comes to others. And then I have some that, you know, don't sit on either side of the fence. So coming from that standpoint, I'm not going to lie, it's a complex issue. But I'm all for protecting people's rights. And I think once you're a U.S. citizen, we understand that you have certain rights. So on one hand, I think it's absolutely necessary to protect the rights of people in this country, to be able to let them build mosques, to worship whoever they want to, whether it's Allah or Dr. Seuss. And as long as you aren't harming anybody else or anybody's property, go for it. I think everybody should be able to live the life that they want to live, as long as, again, you're not harming anybody else or anybody's property. But I also think the government has an obligation, and I'm just sort of mixing in a little immigration talk here just because it's constantly in the news. I think the government has an obligation to protect its citizens, and that does mean having borders. And it does mean you're only letting in people into the country who want to assimilate, who want to be part of our culture. And so I really have no issues with trying to keep people out who don't want to assimilate, who come from parts of the world that do treat women as subhuman, who believe that you should be able to stone somebody who beds somebody of the same sex, and who want to enforce a new political system like Sharia law that basically goes against our culture and beliefs. So you've got people out there in the world who want to cause harm to people of different faiths or no faiths. And yeah, they shouldn't be here. Like, to me, that's not prejudice. That's just common sense. Even if you look at like one of the largest Islamic groups in the United States, Louis Farrakhan, he was doing an interview not that long ago where he even agreed with the government's so-called ban on this certain group from different parts of the world, because he said, look, these people do want to kill people. And again, it's not all Muslims, because we have a lot of Muslims who have assimilated here, who are okay with our culture and our beliefs, and who go worship, you know, their own way without feeling like they need to chop off somebody's head in the process. So you even have a large Islamic leader in the States saying that we shouldn't let certain people in. So however they do that, I don't know. Do you give them a litmus test? I'm not saying keep out all Muslims, but I am saying you need to keep out some of the people who want to kill you. Okay? So there is a problem, and it's not video games. And I think governments like Turkey would be a lot better served if they address the real issues, crack down on things like radicalization, instead of using things like video games as a scapegoat. Because again, there's a problem, not video games. That does it for me, The Red Dragon. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.